it was 2012, 2013, and I was in this terrible job at Frito-Lay, stocking chips in the middle of the night. I had no social life. I had to go to bed at 4 o'clock to get up at midnight to go get in a truck and go stock chips. And there was just, it was just like one really bad day, and I was just over it. And my dad, he now owns a hobby store in Ramsey, and I just asked him. Yeah, he wasn't doing too much with the company, and I just said, "What are your thoughts on me taking it and running with it and seeing what happens?" And he was all for it. So then I ran with Allied Fence for a while, and then started Fence Concepts on my own because he wanted to sell Allied Fence and kind of wash his hands of it, so he can focus on the hobby store. But yeah, so I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but just it was an opportunity for me to get out of that chip stocking.
What was
situation.
that season of life, the chip stocking season? Was that after high school? What? Give me a little color.
Early 20s.
Okay.
You know, it was definitely like, still in my, trying to wrap up college, and just, figuring out which direction I was going to go in life. And at the time it worked out really well because the hours worked with then, I would get off early, and then I went to school. I went to community college and was able to wrap that up. But yeah, it was, I don't know how it, it's coincidence or not, but it's just, I love that it happened the way it did.
Yeah. I can sympathize with that. Not necessarily the 4 a.m. Frito-Lay shift, but being stuck in a factory. I've done some factory work.
Yeah.
When you're in it, dude, it's kind of dark.
It is. Everyone, you kind of get the feeling that no one really wants to be there, at that time. And so, I would show up, and it was, you clock in, it's pitch black outside. It's cold in winter months, and you get into a truck and you have to drive 45 minutes to your first store, but then you have to be done before these stores open. So it was like a mad rush. So yeah, it was tough. I don't know. It just, great corporation, but it just wasn't, it wasn't a good job for an early 20s, single guy trying to figure out, his direction in life.
So you buy the fence company from your dad. Then what?
So I didn't buy it from him. He sold Allied Fence to these other individuals. And then I started Fence Concepts on my own. So, buying equipment, figuring out how, creating a website, marketing, starting to get the customers to come in. What was awesome and very helpful was that there was a lot of people calling his phone number, saying, "Hey, I got your number from this individual that you had done a fence for last year. They recommended you." And so then he could kind of introduce me as, well, I'm not in anymore, but my son has taken, and started his own fence company. And so that was a great way to kind of transition into starting my own company. And then, but I did it myself. I didn't have employees. I was selling, I was installing, I was doing everything. Just a one-man show for a handful of years until it got to the point where, I felt the need to, I think I was 28 maybe. And I just was like, start to feel the effects on your body. And it's like, man, I need to kind of take a step back and reassess and bring some other individuals in here to help me run this thing.
Well, that's who this first season is targeting, that owner operator that was doing six figures, wants to get to 6 vans and beyond.
Yep.
Let me ask you this, going back to when you first started Fence Concepts, knowing what you know now, what would have been the order of operations that you would have done to, launch easier? Was there anything that you would have done differently?
I don't know if there's anything I would have done differently. In my mind, being an owner operator and being the only individual was, obviously, any money that's made is coming directly to me. Um, and my hope was that, I could buy a truck, buy a trailer, buy the whole setup, and then pay that off and be completely debt free, and then take it off from there, start growing it. Well, things escalate and you got to buy a different type of trailer. You need to buy some heavier equipment. You need to buy different things, and then you start getting larger projects, and then you usually have to put some money down up front for these larger material orders before they come in, and then so it's a bit of a juggling act. So it definitely, I wish that I would have spent more time focusing on paying those items down to make it an easier transition as you grow. Because the phone's ringing, and you have these employees, but now you're paying for a commercial spot. Your commercial warehouse. You got now we have 3 vehicles. You have 3 different trailers. You have mini excavators and different augers, and 3 sets of tools, because you got 3 different groups going different directions. So um, I think just from a planning perspective, making sure that you were set up, but the growth happens fast, and sometimes you just have to run with it and adapt.
Was it a kind of linear step-by-step thing going back to when you're owner operator, or were there certain activities that you did that provided an outsized return on your input?
Um, just like from a personal perspective, feeling
Like, here's a little bit of the spirit behind the question. I think a lot of new business owners, myself included, want to spend time doing the website. They want to spend time posting on social. They want to play business, for lack of a better term.
yeah,
And while those things are good, those are things that you do more down the road.
Yeah.
I didn't have a website for videography, until maybe a year and a half in or something. It was all just word of mouth for me.
okay.
I'm just curious if they're like I was at this meeting this morning and everyone's like talking about, like I said, posting on social, and this is a new business owner. And I'm like, in my mind, I didn't have a chance to tell him this, but I'm like, dude, I look back at my client list, like over 90% are people I met in person, had a conversation, built a relationship, and then it led to projects and business or whatever. So I guess that's like the heart behind the question, to give somebody a little direction right off the bat. If they're looking to like make money, what's maybe like the first couple things they should do?
Yeah. Yeah, you hit it. I mean, networking is huge. And I've learned that, I was, like I mentioned, I was very fortunate to have, my dad leave the industry and have me kind of start up on my own, but then have him be able to refer me as people still had his card or number, what have you.
Nice.
And so that was very helpful. And being owner operator and being a one-man show, it was, it's not like you needed hundreds of thousands of dollars coming in. Like, that'd be nice, but it was like, as long as I got a couple jobs a week, I know I'm good. And, as you start taking more and more on, you have to account for those things. It's like, okay, well, now I got a $5,000 a month lease payment for a commercial spot. Okay, so now I need to sell that many more jobs a month. And now I have $10,000 every other week in payroll. Okay, so now how many more jobs do I need to sell to make sure that I'm accounting for those things? So I think it happens so fast, and if you don't do your due diligence, you end up learning the hard way, which isn't bad, right? You wish that everything went smooth, but it's something that you have to learn. And especially if you're going to have employees and I don't know. Do I wish I was in an industry where I could run something like a e-commerce shop and be able to stock, pack some boxes and ship them out and not have so much overhead, for sure. But what I take a lot of pride in is the before and after, taking a customer's vision and building it for them and seeing, look on their faces, or, getting those reviews that come through with how happy they are with the outcome. And just seeing a project go from, nothing or an old tear out fence to a new beautiful one it's super cool to like see your work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What have you learned about hiring?
It's hard. It's hard. I mean, when I first hired, it was one of those things where I hadn't done it for obviously the fence company before, but so I went to Facebook. I said, "Hey, I'm looking for some help this summer." And being so seasonal, like, college kids are perfect. I shouldn't even call them kids, but college students. Right now, I put it out there, and I was actually my realtor at the time. Said, my son, he's looking for a job for the summer before he starts school. It was like perfect. So he came in, and then he got 2 or 3 of his buddies that were also looking for work. And so I was like, come on, sure, sounds good.
Nice.
And then, and all 3 of them to this day are still with me.
Wow.
They come back every summer. Quinn he's actually taking a little bit of break from school, but he's focusing 100% of his time on the fence company. This is what he wants to do. And, it means a lot, to me to have those types of employees that, they take great pride in their work, and they're excited to come every day and help you grow, help the company grow. So yeah, otherwise, and going back to hiring, I've done a couple where I put it out to the web, like Indeed or some of the online, and gone through that process. But my 3 core guys that are with me still today all came from a Facebook message and a referral from my realtor.
Mm.
So it's very cool.
How did you successfully scale up to where you mentioned you got that, the office payment, and you got payroll and that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Was it as simple as Google Ads and just investing more in money or more in digital, or was it?
We truly haven't invested a lot of money in digital. We did, so we do the trade shows. The big one, Home and Garden Show that we had talked about earlier, is the big one, and you get a lot of people coming through there, and that are all over Minnesota and surrounding states too. But yeah, it's truly just putting it out there. Last year we did a commercial on Fox 9. We do their booth at the state fair as well. There's a fence that goes around it once a year, and so that was awesome to get our name out and see the ROI come back from that.
Sweet.
And we're trying different things to see what really is gonna grab and is gonna work. But I think in the end, it all comes back to people go to Google and they're gonna say fence company near me, or they're gonna go to Facebook. Excuse me. They're gonna go to Facebook and they're gonna say, hey, who knows a fence company? Who's got a fence guy?
Mm.
And so that's where, those referrals that, you did a fence for an individual, and they're like, hey, Fence Concepts for sure is your go-to guy. And yeah, it's just crazy to see, year over year, I keep track of, the amount of jobs we do every year, and just to see how it multiplies and multiplies and multiplies as we continue to grow our brand. And then it truly is that name recognition and people being familiar with you.
If somebody wants to have success at a trade show, conference type thing, what are a couple keys for somebody to know to make the most of it?
I think I'm still learning that a little bit. We started in a 10 by 10 booth. And my, what I'm kind of wondering is, say I have a 10 by 10 booth. Well, now this year we did a 20 by 20 and we're on the main aisle. So do you think an individual going to the show and they're looking for they have a fence project, so I'm going to find the fence companies. Is it going to hinder, are they not going to come find me in my 10 by 10 booth? Or are they, no matter what size of my booth and location, are they going to find me because they're seeking out fence companies? And so that's what I'm trying to understand, because there's a pretty big cost difference in the size of booth and your location. So this year, we spent the money to be on the main aisle and be in a much larger booth. And so I'll be very curious to see kind of what the turnout is from, or outcome is from, last year to this year. But I think it truly is, it's a little bit about location, making sure that you're within eye shot of, a main focal point of the show, or they have food trucks and things like that. So maybe, we're high traffic areas, but otherwise, in the back of my mind, I truly feel like it's just about being at the right shows. There's a lot of like little community shows, which nothing wrong with, we've done those shows, but going to the larger shows where you can really have a larger broadcast and have more people see you and see your name. I think it just does wonders.
Do you try to book appointments from that show, or how do you stay in touch?
I mean, some individuals would like to, otherwise there's a lot of people. So getting their information, their contact information is the most crucial part. I think it would take a lot of time for us to be getting, booking appointments right then and there. And I'm truly, fence sales are very warm sales. You need a fence, or you want a fence, or you don't.
Mm.
It's next to impossible just to walk up to someone and cold call and sell them on a fence. But, and I'm not a very pushy salesman. I just because I don't like to be sold to like that. So I just, I want to feel comfortable with me, and it's about building that relationship and understanding their needs. And then I think by the time I call them and we set up that appointment, they remember, like, okay, yeah, Scott, yeah, thank you. So
cool.
I just think, if you're in the aisle and you're like trying to pull people into your booth and you're trying to like be right in people's faces and handing out cards, that's kind of a turnoff for a lot of folks.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So much just goes back to like, how would I want to be treated?
Yeah, exactly. It is. I you get solicited, and having my phone number obviously be on Google and, all this stuff. Like I get these soliciting calls all the time, which I guess I get the business model, and it apparently works, but it just, it's not how I would want to be treated or sold to, like going to a car dealership. Like, I just want to look. Like, I'll come find you. Don't chase me down. Don't start asking, but I get it. But it's just, I don't know. I take a lot of pride in just being a little bit more laid back and building the relationship first. And, if they want to truly chat and work through that process, that they're going to go down that road. So, yeah.
How do you stay positive during the off season, or how do you kind of not, how do you approach the off season? Because it's
hard.
I mean, this for recording right now, it's like below zero outside.
Yeah.
You ain't putting any fences in.
No, it is hard. And there's companies that are starting to offer installation in the winter. Can't dig, can't do concrete, but they'll drive posts and then install it that way. What you're dealing with steel posts in negative degree weather, everything's brittle, or not. Maybe if it's vinyl, it's brittle, but otherwise it's cold and it's rigid chain link, or who knows what. And so, and that just, I hate being cold. It's just is my least favorite thing in the world, and so I have no desire to be out there doing that. But yeah, gearing up for the winter months, especially, we're going back to, you know, making sure bills are covered and everything, because your monthly income is for sure changing, as things get colder until they start to ramp up again in the spring. So um, it's hard. It really is, and it's sometimes it can be a little bit of an emotional roller coaster because things can get tight, um, but then once like March starts rolling around and the phone is just ringing off the hook, and usually we still have snow then, so I'm out in my winter gear doing estimates, trudging through snow, trying to get measurements, um, and then you start to get the itch again, and it's like, you completely forget about how brutal winter was, and and you're ready to just get going again.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, there's parts. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. And sometimes for me, it's like, I don't know. In my weaker moments, I'm like, is there an easier way? Should I just
know.
go look for a job?
I know. Yeah, what it's so nice having, that W-2 biweekly paycheck roll in, and and you doing the same thing every day, same spot. But I did that, um, and parts of it I enjoy, but it's the security part that you have to get over, and trust in yourself and trust in the process. And times will be hard, and you just have to know that you're going to see tomorrow, and it's all just going to, eventually it'll all start clicking, and hopefully it all plays out. But
agreed. And I know in the short term, like, that's just kind of the easy eject button. It's like, all right, I know, okay, maybe for a couple of weeks is good, but then you're like, you're gonna get itching. You're gonna be like, all right, enough of this. Then I'll just be dreaming about the business.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, you're like, yeah, I could do that, but then you could be also in a corporate job, be put in kind of uh, a terrible situation, or have a leader that you don't get along with, or just and then you're like, man, I really wish I could just focus on my business and growing it the way that I want to, I want to do it and run the way I want it ran. And I think no matter what, you'll get that itch.
I heard something recently that was a cool little framework, which is basically you just think of every decision as the first order consequence, second and third. And basically if the decision makes you feel good in the moment, that's like a good first order consequence. But basically all the consequences from then on are negative.
Sure.
And then vice versa. So it's like, I don't want to go to the gym, but basically that's the only bad thing. That's the first order consequence. I don't feel like doing it. But the 2nd through 10th is better health, better everything. I feel like that's the same with the job. It's like the first order consequences, I get a little sense of security and whatever. But then like 2 through 10 it's just like negative. So whatever, enough of that. I just wanted to share that framework because I feel so knowledgeable.
Yeah, no,
just flexing. I'm on Twitter. Okay, so what are you doing? What do you got? What excites you right now, and what are you working on to level up the business next year?
Yeah, so we're focusing a lot on the commercial side of things. Residential. The residential piece up until this year has been probably 90% residential work and 10% commercial, kind of sprinkled in there. So this year, focusing a lot more on the commercial side. It's usually might be a little bit more complicated. It's not so, it's not really a 2-day project. We're in, we're out, type thing. But that's usually it's, higher priced projects. It's at one location. So I have my crew going to the same spot for a week, 2 weeks. So it's convenient from that perspective. and also there's just there truly is a lot of business, a lot of work out there from a commercial perspective through cities, and then through larger contractors. There is a need, and there are fence companies obviously doing that now, but I think that the residential market is becoming more and more saturated as more and more young Scots, early mid 20s are leaving their jobs now or maybe they're working for a fence company and they want to start their own, and so you're seeing more and more kind of come into the game. And so it's just and then it just comes down to being a price battle. And if some individual is getting a chain link fence, are they really concerned about the type of material or the thickness or gauge of material, but or are they concerned about price? And I think more times than not, homeowner is going to say price, depending on their situation. But if you get into those price battles, it's very hard, especially as I'm trying to grow and I have more overhead. It just makes it tough. So the commercial side, is a little bit more flexible from that perspective, and it allows me to broadcast my net too and grow my brand, and just get more eyes on it.
So what's your plan to go after the commercial accounts?
Yeah, so I've gotten some great leads, not only through BNI, but also just through cities that I've done work for in the past, or just over the last couple of years. They've put me onto a few of their bidding websites that they have, where other
nice.
municipalities go on to put their projects on there. So they got a new park going on and going up in Shoreview. Okay, so they put it out to bid, and then you can get on there and see the plan, submit a bid, see who's the main contractor on there, and then you connect with them, and then that opens up a whole new vein of referrals or who they can connect you with. So that's been super beneficial. Just again growing my network to try and grow the business.
How do you reach out to somebody that you want them to be your referral partner? I could see like a general contractor being an awesome contact. Just curious, what like a practical way? Do you just email? Do you call? And do you just say, hey, like you introduce yourself and let them know what you do? Does that get work, or do you lead with value, or what seems to work?
Calling.
Yeah,
and it's you can send it. Have I emailed? Sure. And sometimes, I'm not saying it never works, but sometimes that works. But you're more likely to get a response by finding the right individual and then calling and introducing yourself. And so that's what I do. So I'll call if I get the right contact at the city or a parks department or at a large contractor. I'll just call them and introduce myself and let them know not only where we're located, what we do, and how we can help them or get onto their preferred vendor list, to at least have, I'm not saying to give us all their fence business, but at least an opportunity to show, provide a quote, or just keep the conversation going, because they might have a preferred fence vendor now, but continually reaching out, continually just checking in, and not being pushy, just asking for an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And just that constant check-in, or them constantly hearing your name or your company's name. I think definitely eventually you're going to get that chance.
What do you think separates you / Fence Concepts, but maybe your personal characteristic traits that you do well, that maybe others not as well? That, like, if there's a couple characteristic traits that you would point to for your success.
Yeah, it's exactly that. And it's not, I'm not a, I don't believe I'm a cocky person, or arrogant. Yeah, I think I take a lot of pride in being a relationship builder and, getting to know someone on a personal level, or, even when it doesn't have to be super personal, but also just understanding, a customer's need or how they work, or what they would like to see. And, before it's not just about going out to get a measurement and then saying, okay, I'll send you the bid. It's more of a conversation, and, talking about, meeting their dogs, or, whatever it is. It's, you get invited up onto the deck and you sit there and you're talking through, different fence material options, or, different layouts. And then, uh, it just, it always ends up leading to, potentially another topic or subject or something you guys might have in common. And so, I take a lot of pride in being a relationship builder and being just more personal rather
Mm.
than just a contact at the fence company.
Yeah.
They can call me with questions. I'm the owner. I have guys that go out and do the installs. I'm most of the time there throughout. Whether it's checking in, or I'm for sure they're at the beginning and at the end. But um, it's not we're not sending out subcontractors to go do the work. These are employees, and in the face, who you're talking to, that's who's going to be there the first day to help walk through the plan, and then at the end to make sure that it went to plan.
Mm. Do you have any formal goal setting system or process?
We don't. We don't. That is, well, that is my goal for 2025, is to just be a better business owner.
Mm.
I have these rock star employees, um, and they deserve to have more clear structure, and have the ability to set their own goals as well, that hopefully align with Fence Concepts goals. But, from a personal development perspective, helping them get to where they want to be. And whether it's at Fence Concepts or not, I'd love to have them, love to retain them, but, they're going to be wrapping up college, or maybe they have different goals, for their career. And so how can I help them, grow a specific trait, or um, be better at something that they currently are struggling with, that will help them down the road. So
Yeah.
again, I think that comes down to just being, more personal, and like having, still being a good boss, and like, um, you know, bringing that success to the company, but also just being a mentor, right? And
Yeah.
helping them grow. They're usually, most of my guys are early mid 20s, and they're still figuring out what they want to do and which direction they're going. So, however I can help them, whether again it's at Fence Concepts or not, I take a lot of pride in that.
I feel that, man. Actually, that's something over break. I moved and hired these two 19-year-olds to just help with labor and picking up boxes and furniture and
Yeah.
stuff. And I just like, I love their attitude. One guy had no idea how to move anything, man. It was crazy. He was the guy I contacted, or he contacted me on my Craigslist ad, but it was pretty funny. But uh, I felt this like overwhelming desire to, after the move was done, I just like sat down with them. We had some drink, just water or whatever. But I was like, dude, how can I help you guys right now? Because like sometimes I lose perspective. I'm 33, and it's like, oh, actually, I have done some life experience here, and I've done some things that I'm not an expert, but I could maybe help
Yeah.
in some way when you're at a crossroads. And so they told me their story. It's like this one guy, his dad passed away, and then his mom got fired during COVID, and he's just trying, like,
Oh man.
he's got this he's got that fire that he wants to like provide and help out, and he's like got all the right motivation. And I had this sense in my spirit that I wanted to tell them so much. I wanted to like just like start, but I also had another sense, it was like, no, it's just like they can't handle that much. You
Sure.
know, like you only a little bit at a time here. And so whatever, it was a good conversation. I think both people, you know, both parties, myself and them, you know, walked away feeling good. Um, but it made me think like, man, it'd be awesome to like start my own business and like, or like a team, like how like mentor young
Yeah.
guys and just like, yeah, whether it's like junk removal or whatever, like that's like a facade fencing. It's like it's that's the pretext. That's why people are there, but you're really a training and development company, kind of
Yeah.
like high school sports or whatever.
Definitely. Yeah. That's so true. You know, it's pretty rare that you have someone that comes in and it's their first job and they're there for their entire career, you know. And so they usually have some different goals, and those goals more than likely 9 times out of 10 are going to change, based off of, you know, life experiences and, you know, seeing, you know, what the world has to offer. But yeah, it, going back, like it's something that I want to be better about this year, is um, helping them develop goals, and then hopefully seeing them obtain some of those goals here this year, but also bigger picture, you know, 3, 5 years, where do you want to be? What do you want to be doing? How can I help? And so, um, yeah, I didn't really have that growing up. You know, I was in the retail world, you know, in my late teens, early 20s. And then I got into the Frito-Lay thing, and, you know, it's just, and then I was just like kind of on my own. And so that kind of created a lone wolf mentality for me, where I was always just on my own. You know, at the Frito-Lay, at Frito-Lay, I was out trying to sell more shelf space for more chips at stores, you know, and so it was like, that was
Yeah.
my role, and then
Yeah.
just stocking and on to the next one. And
Yeah.
so, it created that mentality for me. And I think I brought a lot of that to my company now. Is, you know, I really enjoy the sales part of it. I'm going to have a hard time giving that up. Yeah, I know I need to bring someone else in to help with the sales side, just because, you know, the calls are there and we have a lot of opportunity. But I love going to, you know, people's homes and or businesses or whatever, and helping them develop a plan, and working through that process with them. So, um,
Cool.
yeah, I'm gonna have a hard
Yeah.
time kind of letting that go. But
Well, maybe you never have to. Maybe you just keep leveling up and you kind of backfill the sales position.
definitely, yeah. I think, like, worst case scenario, that's what it would be. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I think in the end, I won't be able to let it go
Yeah.
100%. But
I mean, I don't think anyone sells like the owner of a business.
right, yeah,
You'll
that
be,
is so
you'll
true.
Be, you'll be head sales guy for, I think, a while.
Forever, yeah, yes, yes.